My name is Nina Ekelund and I'm the Executive Director for the Haga initiative in Sweden. Last year, we started a 4-year project, Climate Neutral Nordics, Klimatneutralt Norden. And Haga initiative, together with Skift, business climate leaders in Norway, and CLC, Climate Leadership Coalition in Finland, started the project Climate Neutral Nordics, and it's financed by Nordic Council of Ministers. The purpose with Climate Neutral Nordics is to speed up climate transformation, in which policy and business need to engage and interact with each other. This will lead to a reinforced societal process leading up to a more competitive, inclusive and sustainable Nordic region. We work with mapping business ambition, demonstrating the climate benefits, facilitating interaction between business and policy, and strengthening models, abilities and innovation. In 2021, we made an interview survey with 40 CEOs from one of the biggest companies in the Nordics. And the conclusion from that report, from the interviews with the CEOs, was a strong sense of urgency. Nordic business leaders show grave concern on climate change and its consequences. Also, ramp up climate actions. More ambitious policies are required. Carbon pricing is crucial. Nordic companies can play a key role delivering climate solutions worldwide. And last, act, not talk. Targets are clear, but the transitional pace is so slow. Increase cooperation between business and policy and speed up the transition. So this webinar today is one of many work streams in Climate Neutral Nordics. So this webinar, Climate and Security, How to Navigate in a New Geopolitical Context. The world is changing fast, and the state of crisis seems to be the new normal. We go from a pandemic to a geopolitical conflict in Europe. To help business, policy, and all of us to understand the situation and what we need to do, we have brought together expertise from different fields in society. We will discuss what can we learn from previous global crises. What are the opportunities and challenges for business regarding transformation in the new geopolitical context? How can we strengthen the Nordic collaboration and resilience? And how do we secure climate transformation in the value chain? We have a fantastic panel and fantastic speakers. As you can see, we will start with research and then we move over to business and then to policy. So I'm so glad that you're joining us today. And I also want to say we have a chat that you can use and we will send the questions further to the group that's presenting. So you know you can use the chat and we would love to have your comments. So let's start. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, keynote speaker, Catharina Sikow-Magny. That's the Director for Green Transition and Energy and System Integration at EU DG Energy. And she will talk about how to navigate in the new geopolitical era with multiple crises. Please, Catharina.
Many thanks, Nina, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Very pleased to be here today with you, although virtually only. Would of course have loved to come to the region, which is also my region. Okay, I think your event is extremely timely. I mean, Europe is at the crossroads in the situation whereby Russia has attacked Ukraine. And we are living in a time of enormous challenges and equally important opportunities. The EU is very conscious of the gravity of the current circumstances and is showing resolve and proactivity. Russia's aggression against Ukraine, which started in February, as we all know, is unacceptable and tragic. The EU has shown a united front, has adopted the most advanced sanctions in its history and is strongly supporting Ukraine. The first lesson to draw is that our energy system cannot afford to continue to depend on the import of Russian fossil fuels. We are addressing imports of coal and oil in the sanctions regime, but now we need to drastically reduce our dependence on Russian natural gas already this year and end it by 2027 at the latest. This is only 5 years, and not least because Russia already itself has cut supply to 5 member states, including some of the ones in the Baltic Sea region, showing that it is an unreliable partner. So against this background, the Commission adopted the Repower EU plan, a comprehensive package of proposals prepared by the European Commission across many services, and that was presented on the 18th of May. We could summarize the objectives of Repower EU into 3. First one, reducing our dependence on Russian fossil fuels. Second, fast forwarding the clean energy transition. And 3, achieving a more resilient energy system and a true European energy union. This enormous challenge requires action at national level as well. Actually, a key component of the Repower EU package is the European Commission's proposal to add a new chapter to the national recovery and resilience plans. We will work hand in hand with national governments, stakeholders, and including, of course, all of you who are present here today to front-load investments and address the current challenges. So diversifying import sources and accelerating energy savings are the 2 key pillars of the strategy. Today, I will focus on the 3rd, accelerating the clean energy transition. So achieving the objectives of the clean energy transition is a major challenge, and we must strive to approach it in a cost-effective manner. To this end, we must respect the 3 objectives of energy system integration. So first, to have a system that is more efficient, circular, and consumes less resources. Second, it is to integrate a large and growing share of renewable energy and to promote electrification. This, of course, means also more volatility in the system. And 3, it is to promote the use of renewable gases and fuels where electrification is not possible technically or where it is still too costly. Renewable gases and fuels includes in the context both fuels produced from non-biological origin, such as hydrogen, as well as biofuels and other forms of bioenergy. Biofuels will play an important role in decarbonizing the transport sector. That goes without saying. Transport is responsible for 1/3 of final energy consumption and 1/4 of total greenhouse gas emissions in the EU. As for the energy system as a whole, we consider that transport should be electrified where possible and be powered by increasing levels of renewable electricity. However, we also know, and all the forecasts show, that biofuels will need to play an important role, especially if we think of aviation and maritime, and as these cannot be electrified effectively today. So we need to ensure then that the biofuels that we need are truly sustainable. We believe that today, so-called conventional biofuels have only a limited role to play in decarbonizing the transport sector, and their use should be minimized. The message of the Renewable Energy Directive, as well as the Commission's proposal for revising the Renewables Directive, is very clear in this regard. So while the directive aims to secure investments that have been made, it sets clear signals and that the future focus of renewable energy policy in the transport sector will be on promoting other renewable fuels, such as advanced biofuels and synthetic fuels, which aim to promote with dedicated measures. Similarly, we need to take action to ensure sustainability of forest biomass. I know the region is very rich in this respect, and the proposal of the revision of the Renewables Directive increases the level of ambition of the protection and sustainability criteria to make most efficient use of biomass to maintain the long-term potential of bioenergy and to better protect biodiversity. In view of the urgent need to reduce our dependence on Russian oil imports, we called the co-legislators through the Repower EU plan to further step up the level of ambition of renewable energy across all sectors. Our aim is to reinforce the existing measures in the Renewable Energy Directive and provide the industry with certainty about future market demand for advanced biofuels and other renewable fuels. These are needed indeed to ensure large-scale investment and innovation in the sector. The Nordic countries in particular, but the Baltic Sea region more generally, are among the leaders in the energy transition due to large potential for renewable, including, of course, hydro, but also including biomass. I believe that this leadership will continue and that the energy transition will provide further opportunities for growth and jobs in the Nordic countries. Ladies and gentlemen, I have tried to sketch out the background and the thinking of the Commission when it comes to the energy transition, especially in these difficult times that we are living today. Renewable energy, including biofuels and bioenergy, will be key to this transition, and your region is very well placed to take this forward. Many thanks, and happy to answer questions there may be.
Thank you so much, Catharina. I do have some follow-up questions to you, and we've got some questions on the chat as well. But you mentioned biofuels, and bioenergy stands for approximately 60% of the renewable energy sources in EU today and can be used as a source to phase out import dependency. But in the beginning of May, 517 business leaders from 26 countries sent a letter to the European Commission to include bioenergy solutions in the EU strategy and that way become independent of Russian fossil fuels. And you mentioned it, but it's still a big worry from the Nordic countries. Will biofuels be more represented in Repower EU?
Many thanks for that important letter and the important question as well. So as I outlined briefly in the speech, we consider that biofuels do have an important role to play in sectors where electrification is not feasible, and here especially the heavy transport sector. However, biofuels need to be sustainable. We cannot afford then losing the benefits that the forests, for instance, bring to decarbonization and also in terms of biodiversity. So that's why we consider that the contribution of biofuels produced from food and feed crops is limited, and we should minimize their use. But against this background, the directive on renewables introduce limits for conventional biofuels and focuses on the promotion of biofuels produced from waste, residues, like advanced biofuels. So member states are not required to support biofuels produced from food and feed crops, but should focus on the advanced biofuels, which is also the future where innovation is needed and where the potential of the region is enormous. Having said this, I would of course then encourage you to continue bringing the concerns you may have to the attention of the Commission and to make your voice heard in Brussels. So, but we are certainly very keen to listen and to understand the special concerns you may have.
We have a question regarding this as well, from Per Ribbing in the chat. And is it not more wise to use electrofuels rather than biofuels?
I think in this situation where we are, on the one hand, you could even say that we have a triple crisis. On the one hand, there is, of course, war in Ukraine. Then we have the climate crisis, and we also have the biodiversity crisis. And in that context, I think we should use any possibility, any fuel that helps us decarbonize the economy. And in this case, if we speak about transport, help decarbonize transport as rapidly as possible. So here, of course, electrofuels will play an important role, but we also do need biofuels in the mix. So I think what we need to look at, and that depends, of course, also on each country and each specificity of each member state, on what is the best mix in this respect. So, and what is the transition path from today to the decarbonized economy. So every form of fuel that help decarbonize, we should use as much as possible.
Please continue to ask questions in the chat. Another question. Large volume of combustible waste are deposited within the EU. If the EU's targets for increased circularity is achieved, residuals corresponding to 100 terawatt hours or more remains, which is not proposed to be extracted. Why is the residuals not being energy recovered in EU? And why is not CCS and CCUS technology not used to permanently store 90% of the carbon dioxide and to provide carbon sinks?
Thanks. So we do consider that low carbon fuels, as they are called, as opposed to renewable fuels, can play an important role for decarbonization, especially in the early years of the transition. So while the Renewables Directive will continue to focus on renewable fuels, low carbon fuels and gases are covered by the package we adopted last December that focuses on how to decarbonize the gases sector and how to bring renewable hydrogen and low carbon hydrogen into the market. So this package includes definitions as well as fully fledged certification scheme for low carbon fuels and the rules for determining the carbon intensity of low carbon fuels and gases. So this package is still under negotiation in the Council and in the European Parliament, and that's perhaps why it is not so topical yet in the industry, because it is not yet law. When it then comes to carbon capture and storage technologies, we consider these as important decarbonization solutions, especially for the hard-to-abate sectors like industry or transport, perhaps. And the Innovation Fund that has been there already for quite a while has provided significant funding for innovative projects, including in the CCS and CCUS sectors. Last year, only 1.1 billion euro was awarded for 7 large-scale installations, 4 of them including CCS and CCU components. So we certainly do see the potential for these technologies, and we are increasingly discussing with the sector and also working towards perhaps even a strategy or a legal framework, regulatory framework. Already, in addition to the Innovation Fund, already today for the infrastructure, so for the pipes that would transport carbon to a permanent storage, is part of the Trans-European Energy Infrastructure Regulation. And some projects in the area of the Netherlands in the North Sea have already received support under this instrument. So CCS and CCUS are certainly emerging technologies, and we will need them absolutely. Thanks.
We have got some more questions on the chat. Increased carbon pricing is the most powerful initiative. What is EU comments from Tom? And I know you had a decision in the Parliament, and they sent back the parts of the EU ETS last week. So what is your comment on carbon pricing?
Carbon pricing, I mean, as an economist like myself, it's obvious that pricing such an externality as carbon is an efficient way forward. We have also seen that the ETS has delivered. Our electricity sector has made good progress in decarbonizing. Now, of course, as we are attacking the harder to abate sector, so member states are in a different situation to start with. So that is certainly reflected in the debates that took place in the Parliament and also are taking place in the Council. But we need to move fast. We don't have any time to wait. There is urgency. So therefore, we must go forward. I, of course, trust in the wisdom of the political decision making. So we certainly are contributing to that discussion in a positive sense. But having said this, I think what is important that pricing brings, of course, efficiency, and the more of the sectors we bring into the ETS, the better. But we need to keep in mind also that a price needs to be paid, and some of the more vulnerable households may be in a difficult situation as a consequence. And that's why we also proposed as an accompanying fund that would then address the most vulnerable members of our society, so that they can keep up when the carbon price has an impact on, be it on transport or buildings. So we continue working on this file, and we expect the Parliament and the Council to resume soon the talks, and hopefully having a compromise very rapidly in sight.
And just the last question from Joan. Since we should focus on a broad variety of different solutions available, what incentives may the EU provide the national member states to increase accessibility of renewable fuels more than just electrification?
On renewable fuels, so we have on the one hand proposed targets in the Renewables Directive, so which is still in the negotiations with the Council and the Parliament. We hope to get into what are called trialogue negotiations in the autumn, so that we could have a conclusion by end of the year. The targets for biofuels concern transport. We understand that from the many players in the transport sector, they consider these targets to be quite ambitious, and perhaps they are, but we think that it needs to be further developed. The key way to incentivize the uptake of such fuels are of course in the hands of the member states. We set the broad framework in the EU, and then member states implement it domestically to ensure that it is best fitting the local and national context. So that's very briefly, and yeah, thanks.
And just one, if you can respond with just 2 sentences or something, what will be the Nordic contribution to Repower EU in yours? What do you think? What will be the most important for the Nordics to contribute to with?
Couple of points. First, Nordics are already very advanced in the decarbonization. So continue telling your success story. How have you done it? Second, I think the Nordics, together now with the Baltics, rely strongly on the well-functioning market. You have been precursor in developing the internal market. Continue also there relying on it, and passing the messages elsewhere and investment signals. So these three rapidly.
Thank you so much, Catharina Sikow-Magny. Thank you for joining us this morning. I hope you will have a great day. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Wishing you an excellent discussion and look forward to hearing all the echoes. Many thanks.
Thank you so much.